Howdy folks, I'm Keith Bowen and this is Hard Rock University. Tonight we're going to do some more of hand panning for microfine gold, but we're specifically going to work on some problem issues. It's really nice getting feedback from you folks. I really appreciate it because what works easily for me or with my ore doesn't always work easily for other people. And so I've done some research and found out a number of things that can make this technique difficult to achieve, and I'm going to go over them tonight. I'm going to be using the same thing, the jet dry finish, clean water. I'm not going to do the first part of the hand panning at all because that's real simple, it works real easy. What I am going to do is deal with the worst concentrates I've been able to come up with. I took a number of different ores, panned them down to cons, put them in one pan, then panned it down even further. So this is like devil's cons. Anyhow, the first issue I want to address is a clock face. Now, some people, especially young people, nowadays don't seem to know how an analog clock works, what a clock face is. They don't know how to read them. So when I say grab it at 12 and tap at 10 or whatever, it just makes no sense. So the first thing we're going to do is do a quick review of clock face and the convention of that so that it makes sense to everybody. Here is a clock face. You can see the numbers going around the clock face, starting at the top at 12, going sequentially till 11. Now if that clock was laying on the ground, you were standing in the center, and you were looking forward, that would be 12 o'clock. On your direct right would be 3 o'clock. On your direct left would be 9 o'clock. Directly behind you would be 6 o'clock. This is how they get that military phrase, watch your 6. It means look behind you. So, to make things simple when I'm discussing where to grab things or whatever, I'm going to stand as close as I can to right in front of the camera without blocking it. And then I will grab the pan in the various locations. I'm going to start with this green pan because it's the smallest and it doesn't work very well. Then I also have a 10-inch pan and a 14-inch pan. And I'll show you a few things. Actually, I think I'll start with a 14-inch pan because it doesn't work at all. And there's a very simple reason for that. Put water in here. Put the concentrates in the pan. And now, remember I said you grab the pan at 9 and you tap it at 12. We'll get the concentrates. And for those of you who are familiar with concentrates, you can tell how heavy they are by how hard they are to move. I'm going to put them in the 10:30 position. I'm going to be grabbing it here at 9 and here at 12. And I'm going to be tapping at 12 here. Now I fill the pan with water. Start tilting it toward me and tapping. Now you can see some of the concentrates are in fact working their way down. Does my hand? But when I get that down to here, pretty soon the water level gets so low it's actually touching the cons and I still haven't got them to move. The difference between there and there is so great. You can't get enough tilt in the pan without the water leaving that edge, which messes up the whole technique. This green pan is a very small pan. You think, wow, that'll work great. The problem is, it would work great, except you can't see microfine gold against this bright green very well. So for that reason, I'm not going to use it. Of the pans I have, this is the one that seems to work the best. This is an Estwing 10-inch gold pan. and they're inexpensive, and it seems to be just about the right dimensions to do what I need. Now, to do multiple takes and everything else, I have put another pan in my tub here to allow me to do my thing. So the first thing you need to do is get an appropriate size gold pan. I think this particular material may actually work a little bit better too, but I'm not sure. Then, once you get it down to cons, we'll actually start tapping. Now, this is how a right-handed person would set it up. Put your concentrates in the upper left corner. Shake it around a little bit gently to get the gold down in the corner of the pan. Grab with your left hand at 9 o'clock and tap it with your right hand at 12 o'clock. Now, if you're left-handed, it would be reversed. My other half is going to come over here just to show you what it looks like. First, you put the concentrates in the upper right-hand corner, shake them around a little bit, and we'll see how well this works for her.
Now, what am I doing?
Grab it here. No, right about here. Okay. Fill the pan with water gently. Okay. Now, I'll help you hold it. And start tapping the pan at the 12 o'clock position. Harder. Then we start tilting it a little bit and start moving those concentrates down the pan. And the gold will be concentrated roughly halfway between the two hands. That's a left-handed position. So this is the right-handed position. The concentrates are over here in the upper left corner, the 10:30 position. I'm grabbing at the 9 o'clock position. I'm tapping 90 degrees away at the 12. Tilting it down here, you can see the concentrates moving rapidly with just a little bit of tilt. Now that depends on the density of the materials. What you're seeing moving right there is a low density stuff. And keep increasing the tilt just a little bit. All this is low density material. This is the high density stuff. Now another thing I found, interestingly enough, is that the larger gold particles do not stick to the pan. And therefore, when you're tapping it, they may actually run down the pan rather than stay at the top. All those heavies back there. And I found about a dozen or a half a dozen gold particles in here, up to almost 20 mesh, that were really unusual in terms of they went down there before I exposed the gold on the top. Let me just keep going. Okay, I can just see the gold showing now. I'm just going to keep tapping it a little bit. At this point, I'm going to stop and examine the gold that I just saw starting to show up there. And I have deliberately left the magnetics in here. As you can see, there's not a heck of a lot of them. That's steel from the grinding process. Now go ahead and drain it. Examine it with a hand lens. There's one of those gold parts. Yeah, they're still there. Now, as in lesson 4, I'm going to get rid of as much of the material as I can, but rather than using a squirt bottle, I'll just go ahead and kind of wipe it out and wash it out. I'm going to try and create the effect I saw not too long ago when I was doing the test for this. You can see how steep I'm having to tip it to get the gold to separate from the heavies. There's the gold there. Here's these other real heavies, but there's a piece of gold right there. There's one there. And on that other pan, I got this down to so little that the larger pieces of gold actually wound up down here, leaving the real micro fine stuff up there. I presume if you had heavier chunks or whatever, it might actually be even worse. So check down here too for larger pieces of gold, and up there for the real micro fine stuff. I'd go with a black Estwing pan if you can get them. They sold them at Ace Hardware here in Tucson. And that was one of our very interesting phenomena we discovered. So be careful, the coarser gold can actually be down there. So once you start getting it down pretty thin, just start seeing your gold. Stop and examine it, look for larger pieces of gold, and then continue the process and be ready to stop and take a look. As soon as that gold starts separating, stop it, take your lens out, look and see what's in here, look and see what might be down here, go from that. But you notice we didn't see any gold to that very last little bit, and I got it down to almost no other heavies, very small quantity. Keep getting rid of your heavies. Get a small amount here, and then you'll be able to see that. One other thing that should be able to help is to give it a finer classification so you don't have as much coarse particles as you do screening it to 16 mesh. This is a 40 mesh screen, and of course 40 mesh gold will go through it, but you know, your sulfides and such, you'll be screening them to a smaller particle size that'll act more like the microfine gold and not run away from you quite as much. You would want to pan the oversize separately, because some of those gold particles I saw would theoretically be rejected off this screen, and they are a significant fraction of the total gold. As a matter of fact, the 50 or 100 mesh plus in the particular sample from the day where we were with the gold cube, the majority of the gold was probably in the coarser materials in the 100 mesh plus, not the microfine. So that's another way you can kind of make life a little easier on yourself, is to screen it into two fractions and then pan them separately. So that's today's lesson. Now, I'm sure we'll find other interesting things over the years as we keep using this technique. But those are some of the more common problems we've run into so far. To maximize your chances of success, use the correct size pan. 10, 12, 14-inch pans. Now, if you look here, these will be basically the different size pans, the same tilt. You can see how the water level in the small pan will have plenty, and the medium pan will be just enough, and the large pan would be inadequate at this tilt. So, except for the easiest ores, you're absolutely going to have to go to at least a 12-inch pan, maybe down to a 10-inch pan. Depends on how many heavies you have. Adjust your tapping and tilt as needed. You're going to have to play around with this some. Once you get some gold and you're down to a small amount of cons and you can see it, play around a little. Get used to what works, what doesn't work. You know, instead of doing another sample, just use that same one until you can manipulate it effectively and just get some practice at it. Remove your magnetics. Once you get down to a fairly small amount of concentrates, the magnetics are no longer doing you any good. Initially they kind of help protect the gold, but now they're a problem. The magnetics might be iron oxides like magnetite, but at this stage what you're really dealing with in magnetics is tramp iron from your crushing and grinding circuit. That and maybe some hard facing. Those things are real heavy, really dense, and can be a bit of a pain, but they're really easy to remove. Keep removing your heavies. Don't try and get to the gold the first time. If it's not showing, fine, just dump out the stuff in the bottom of the pan, do it again, run it up in the corner, work it out again. Keep going until you get less and less and less heavies, leaving just the gold. Watch out for coarse gold getting away from you once you get to the last stages of the reveal. Up until that point, pretty much as far as I can tell, all the gold's going to be up in that corner. It's only when you're starting to get to where the last little bit of material is being cleaned away, that's when the gold tends to slide to the bottom. So use your loupe, keep an eye on things, make sure you don't have coarse gold that's getting away from you there and getting to the bottom of the pan. So there seems to be like a capillary attraction that helps hold the fine gold to the top of the pan more than just gravity itself. Not sure exactly about the physics, but it's pretty obvious what's happening. That gold is literally sticking up there, and the larger particles don't. So that's all I can do. I report it. I don't necessarily understand it. I would also like to thank 3 people especially for giving me the feedback that resulted in this video. Brent up in Kingman, thank you for bringing down the ore that had the coarser gold in it so I could observe that phenomenon for the first time. None of mine has that coarser gold in it. Ken over in New York, Mr. Enthusiasm, appreciate all the help and the feedback you've given me. I'm glad you're having a good time panning. Sorry it was so difficult to learn. This may help a little bit. And then Delano in Indiana, he also has been a real good source of feedback. In his case, he got a small pan, worked just fine. So thanks for the feedback, thanks for the help. This is how I learn more than what I can see right here with what I've got. And that's how I can help other people. So happy prospecting and keep it safe out there.